What it do, man? It's your boy Landon, and I'm back with another banger here for y'all, man. The NFL legend, no one can explain, man. I just got done watching the Drew Aller game. I gotta watch something that might cheer me up, maybe just a little bit. You know, I see Antonio Brown on the screen, so yeah, man. I gotta watch something that might cheer me up because Jesus knows I cannot watch that Drew Aller and Will Howard 10 sacks, bro. It was OD. It was bad. So let's get into this video.
The most dominant stretch by any wide receiver in NFL history came from a guy who was 5'10".
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown.
But he is dynamic. He is amazing. He is talked about. Antonio Brown.
Top 10 receiver all time.
He's got Antonio Brown. What a catch. What a catch.
He was drafted in the 6th round and weighed about 185 pounds. But from 2013 to 2018, Antonio Brown put up 686 catches, 9,145 yards, and 70 touchdowns.
Ben is going to go for it. Oh, to Brown. He catches it. Touchdown.
Which is more than Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzgerald, or A.J. Green during that same window. The players people had called his peers. Every team did pass on AB at least once, including the team that would eventually draft him in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what he did on the field defied what scouts thought they knew about what it took to be a great wide receiver.
Jeez Louise, thank gosh we got him. School sponsored by New Balance. I like to see that.
Go back to April 2010. The NFL draft was rolling through the later rounds, and the Pittsburgh Steelers had already drafted Maurkice Pouncey in the 1st round and Emmanuel Sanders in the 3rd. They were on the clock in the 6th round with pick 195, since they had a pick with a trade from Arizona. On the board sat a receiver from Central Michigan named Antonio Brown. And here's what you need to understand about how Brown was viewed at that moment. He had production at Central Michigan, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, first-team All-American as a punt returner, and MAC Special Teams Player of the Year twice. But he played at a small school and he was undersized. Scouts questioned his size and his route running, ironically. The knock on him was that he didn't have a true position. He was too small to be an outside receiver, not explosive enough to be a slot guy, and he definitely wasn't big enough to win contested catches. So the league passed on him 21 times. Demaryius Thomas went 22nd overall, and that one worked out. Dez Bryant went 24th overall, and that one worked out too, for a while. Golden Tate in the 2nd round, Eric Decker in the 3rd, Brandon LaFell, Jordan Shipley, Emmanuel Sanders, who ended up being Brown's teammate. But then you get to the names after them about players you haven't heard of since. Marcus Easley in the 4th round, 3 catches in his entire career. Kerry Mayer in the 5th round, 1 season as a special teamer and then out of the league. By the time the Steelers got to pick 195, there were still receivers on the board who had been scouted more heavily, graded higher, and projected better. But Pittsburgh had watched Brown's tape. They saw what he could do with the ball in his hands, and they took a shot. Antonio said later that he picked his jersey number 84 because 8 times 4 equals 32. 32 teams passed on him, even the one that drafted him, and that number was his daily reminder. He walked into a Steelers locker room that had Hines Ward, the franchise all-time leading receiver, still on the roster. Mike Wallace was emerging as a deep threat. Sanders was the flashy rookie. Brown was a 6th-round pick who was supposed to be a return specialist, and for a while, that's exactly what he was. But the coaches couldn't have been happier to have him.
And also the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Scotty Montgomery
had the ability to sign an unbelievable player when we got him, Antonio Brown.
The first flash, okay.
Brown's rookie season in 2010 started with the flash. First game of his career, week 1 against the Titans, he returned a kickoff 89 yards for a touchdown. He became the first player since Steve Smith in 2001 to score a kickoff return touchdown in his first career game. It was the kind of play that made coaches pay attention.
Antonio Brown, he's got one. Barones to beat him. There he goes. He'll be chased and he is gone. 97 yards.
One play gave the Steelers coaching staff something to build on, but that was just the highlight. For the rest of the year, Brown was a special teams contributor who occasionally got snaps on offense. 9 games played, 0 starts, 16 catches for 167 yards. No TDs on offense though. The Steelers made it all the way to the Super Bowl but lost to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. AB only had 1 catch for 3 yards. For a 6th-round pick, that wasn't a bad rookie season at all. He made the team and contributed from the value he showed on special teams. But nobody was looking at him and seeing a future Hall of Famer. He was a return man who might develop into wide receiver 3 if things broke right. The scouting reports from that year would not have predicted what came next. The thing is, Brown didn't see himself that way.
Pass is caught. Defensive back fell down. And Brown runs into his own man but maintains his balance and struts into the end zone.
He's talked about how even in those early days, he believed he can be the best, not just a starter, and he worked like it. While other rookies were settling for their role, he was staying late after practice, running extra routes, building the skills that would eventually make him unstoppable. That drive was evident from day one, every single day, and that mattered. The 2011 season brought AB even more opportunity. 16 games, 3 starts, 69 catches for 1,108 yards. He averaged 16 yards per catch, legit deep threat numbers. He scored 2 touchdowns. He also returned 27 punts and 24 kickoffs. He was absolutely everywhere that season. That year, Ben Roethlisberger started trusting him. Once a quarterback trusts a receiver in that type of offense, the targets start coming. But here's what people forget about 2011. Brown was still the third option. Mike Wallace was the deep threat with 1,193 yards and 8 TDs that season. Hines Ward was still getting catches, though his role was fading, and Sanders was still in the mix. AB was the guy who made plays when the ball came his way, but the ball didn't come his way as often as he wanted. Even as that third option, he was voted MVP by his teammates for the first time. Then 2012 happened, and it felt like a step backward. 13 games and only 10 starts. He missed some time that season with an ankle injury. 66 catches for 787 yards and 5 touchdowns. The yards per catch dropped to 11.9, and the big plays weren't there the same way. Part of that was the Steelers' offense was going through changes. Wallace was disgruntled, and Roethlisberger missed 3 games with injury. But for Brown, it was a season where he showed he could be a starter, but hadn't proven he could be a star. If you were looking at his career trajectory at the end of 2012, you saw a decent wide receiver. A guy who could maybe be a solid number 2, a return specialist who had developed into a reliable target, but nothing shouted first ballot yet. He would sign a 5-year deal in the offseason, which would soon look like the steal of the decade. 2013 was a year that nothing was the same. Shout out Drake. Mike Wallace left in free agency, Hines Ward retired at the end of 2012, and the Steelers desperately needed a number 1 wide receiver. AB was the one who answered that call. 110 catches, 1,499 yards, 8 touchdowns. He was named second team All-Pro and made his first Pro Bowl as a receiver. He won team MVP for a second time. He was running routes unlike the league had seen from a small receiver, and his footwork was just surgical. He would plant his foot in the ground and change direction without losing speed, which is harder than it sounds. Most receivers, when they cut, they decelerate first and then accelerate out of the break, but Brown didn't decelerate. He just cut. Like his body didn't obey the same physics everybody else's did. Steelers started moving him all around the formation, put him outside, put him in the slot, motion him across the line before the snap. Then there was the catch radius. For a guy who's 5'10", he played like he was 6'3". He would have a breakout game against the Bears that season with 196 yards, 9 catches, and 2 TDs. He'd also have a 147 yards, 7 reception, 2 TD game against the Lions as well. He would go up and high point the ball against bigger defenders. He would stretch out for throws that shouldn't have been catchable. AB developed a reputation for making the difficult look routine and the impossible look difficult. That 2013 season was the declaration. Antonio wasn't just a good receiver. He was entering the conversation for the best in the league. He just wasn't as consistent as he needed to be just yet. But the next season, he wasn't just consistent, but dominant. Defenses started game planning specifically for him, and he still produced at an even higher level. But before we get into his peak seasons, if you're enjoying this content, I'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe.
Nah, this video is actually
It lets
good.
YouTube and myself know that you're liking it. Now let's get back to it.
The peak number.
2014 is where his numbers start to get stupid. 129 catches, 1,698 receiving yards, and 13 touchdowns. He led the entire league in catches and yards. He was first team All-Pro. He finished third in OPOY vote. He was behind DeMarco Murray and Aaron Rodgers that year. The 2014 season wasn't just productive,
that
it
was
was
DeMarco
historically
Murray's
great.
crazy season.
Brown caught 129 passes, which was at the time the second most in a single season in NFL history, behind only Marvin Harrison's 143 catches in 2002. His 1,698 yards led the league by over 200 yards, and he did it with defenses knowing he was coming. 2015 was even crazier. 136 catches, 1,834 yards, and 10 touchdowns, winning team MVP a third time.
The Steelers' 2015 MVP is wide receiver Antonio Brown. This award is voted on by his teammates, and it marks the third time Brown has received this honor.
He started that season on a tear, with 133 yards and a touchdown against the Patriots, then 195 yards and a touchdown against the 49ers the following week. Then in week 3, he had 108 yards against the Rams. He also caught 16 passes for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns against a Broncos defense that was the best in football that year, with Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. in the secondary. Somehow not winning Offensive Player of the Month that month, losing out to Tom Brady. but he got it a few months later in December. At the time, Calvin Johnson's single-season record was 1,964 yards for a single season from 2012, and Brown's 1,834 yards was the fourth best single-season total in NFL history, while his 136 catches was the second most ever. This was his second straight season with over 125 catches, and he was the only player in NFL history to do it at that point. Also, that was the year AB set an NFL record for most consecutive games with at least 5 catches and 50 yards, and he had that streak going for ages. It's up for debate what his best game that season was. Maybe it was the 284-yard performance against the Raiders, or the 195-yard performance against the 49ers, or maybe it was against the no-fly zone defense with 189 yards and 2 TDs. I honestly still don't know. By year's end, he came second to Cam Newton for Offensive Player of the Year voting, another historic season with really no hardware to show for it. The 2016 season saw numbers drop slightly to 106 catches, 1,284 yards, and 12 TDs. And that was because Le'Veon Bell was healthy and the running game was dominant. Antonio was still the number one, but he didn't need to carry the load every single week. 2017 brought 101 catches, 1,533 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He led the league in receiving yards and was first team All-Pro again, 4th in a row for the final time, and his 4th team MVP. He had a stretch that season where he consecutively went off for 144 yards and 3 TDs against the Titans, then 169 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Packers, 101 yards and a touchdown against the Bengals, and capped it off with an 11-catch, 213-yard performance against Baltimore. Somehow he didn't win Player of the Month though, that going to his teammate Le'Veon Bell. 2018 was his last full season in Pittsburgh, 104 catches, 1,297 yards, and 15 touchdowns. He led the league in receiving touchdowns and made the Pro Bowl again. At the end of that season, he was told he would be on the next Madden cover, a curse like no other. That is 6 straight years of dominance, 6 years where AB, by any measure, was the most productive receiver in football. 4 first-team All-Pro selections, 6 Pro Bowls, a spot on the NFL 2010s All-Decade team. And the thing that still gets overlooked is that Brown did it in an era where defenses still had almost every advantage before the big shift. He faced press coverages, double teams, bracket coverage, safety help over the top, and he still produced. Because that's what legends do. Let's get specific about his competition though, because it was stacked. Julio Jones was taken 6th overall in 2011, 1 year after AB. A physical specimen who had been anointed as a future star from the moment he stepped onto an NFL field. Jones had the size, speed, and pedigree from Alabama. He was supposed to be the best receiver of his generation, and Julio was an all-time great. From 2014 to 2018, he averaged 100 catches, 1,585 yards, and 6 touchdowns per season. He had the 1,871-yard season in 2015 that was historic. He made the Pro Bowl every year, and he was first-team All-Pro twice. But Brown was better. More catches, more touchdowns, more consistent production. Matt Ryan was an MVP in that stretch, while Roethlisberger was good, but not always at that level. The difference in offensive support was significant, and Brown still outproduced Julio. Calvin Johnson retired after the 2015 season, so his peak overlapped with Brown for 3 years, from 2013 to 2015. And he averaged 72 catches, 1,108 yards, and 7 touchdowns per season, while Brown in that same window averaged 125 catches, 1,677 yards, and 10 touchdowns per year. The gap is enormous, and that's without taking into context that Johnson also played with Matt Stafford, who was a high-quality starter during the seasons as well. Larry Fitz was in his 30s during Brown's peak, so it's not really a fair fight. But Larry was still productive. From 2013 to 2018, he averaged 90 catches, 1,050 yards, and 6 touchdowns per season. Solid numbers for a future Hall of Famer, but nowhere near Brown's levels. AJ Green was the closest comparison. From 2013 to 2018, he averaged 78 catches, 1,119 yards, and 7 touchdowns per season. Good, but not elite by Brown's standards. Green's Bengals were competitive during this stretch, and AJ was clearly the number 1 option in that offense. The point is, every other elite receiver of that era had physical advantages over Brown. They were either bigger, stronger, faster, maybe longer, maybe all 4. AB had none of that. He was the smallest of the group by a significant margin, and he outproduced all of them. The comparison that most matters is Jerry Rice. Rice's best 6-year stretch was from 1986 to 1991, and he averaged 91 catches, 1,479 yards, and 14 touchdowns per season over that span. Brown from 2013 to 2018 averaged 114 catches, 1,524 yards, and 12 touchdowns per season. The volume was actually higher for Brown. And AB did it in an era where defenses were more sophisticated and secondary players were more athletic. I'm not saying AB's Jerry Rice, that's not an argument at all, but the fact that the comparison can even be made shows you what level Brown actually reached at his pinnacle. So how did he do it? Well, the truth is, Brown had 3 things that he mastered that didn't require him to be 6'3". First, the release. Brown's release off the line of scrimmage was the best in football, and it wasn't even close. He had this ability to explode off the line and get into his route before the defensive back could get his hands on him. And if a corner tried to press him, Brown would quickly use a quick jab step and then a shoulder fake, and then he was gone. His footwork was so precise that DBs would freeze for a split second, and that split second was all he needed. Second was the route running. AB ran routes like a point guard running an offense. He knew where the soft spots were, he knew when to break, how to sell one direction and go another, and his ability to stop on a dime and change direction without losing balance was unmatched. Defensive backs would flip their hips to run with him, and AB would plant his foot, change direction, and be 5 yards open before the corner could recover. Third was his hands. He caught absolutely everything. Not just the easy throws, but the hard ones, the ones behind him, the ones over his head, the ones low and away. He had the rare ability to catch a pass in stride and keep running without breaking rhythm, and after the catch, he was dangerous. He wasn't going to run through tackles like Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald, but he wasn't going to make guys miss in space, and he had enough speed to turn a 10-yard slant into a 60-yard touchdown. The Hall of Fame conversation around Antonio Brown is complicated, and that's an understatement. On the field, he's a first ballot lock. The numbers are absolutely undeniable. 928 catches, 12,991 yards, 83 touchdowns, 7 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pro selections, the NFL's 2010s All-Decades team, a Super Bowl ring with Tampa Bay. The consistency over 6 seasons is what makes the run remarkable. Brown had 100 or more receptions in 6 straight seasons, the longest streak in NFL history at that time. He set a record for most consecutive games with at least 5 catches and 50 yards. That kind of consistency is harder than any single big game, and AB did this in the AFC North, where the defenses were physical and the games were ugly. But the Hall of Fame voters have to consider the whole picture, and the whole picture includes the off-field issues that derailed his career after 2018. The legal troubles, the behavior, the cryotherapy.
He should be ashamed of himself.
He's a team destroyer.
He is the kind of player I would never, ever want to play for.
Allegations overnight against NFL star Antonio Brown, accused of sexually assaulting a woman who worked as his trainer.
Tonight, Tampa police say they're trying to arrest former NFL player Antonio Brown.
The way it all ended. That's not exactly what this video is about, but it is part of the story and it really can't be ignored. What we are saying today is this. For 6 years, Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the NFL. Not one of the best, but the best. And he did it with a body that, on paper, should have held him back. Every scouting metric, combine measurement, and even every draft grade said Brown would be limited to a role player at best. The shortest receiver on the field produced the most and proved them all wrong. So there you have it. Watch this next video if you haven't already and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching.
Wow. Good video. What a good video. I'm surprised it didn't get into the Vontaze Burfict stuff. But yeah, man. Great video. I will say this. Antonio Brown is the greatest receiver I've seen with my own eyes, and anyone can argue with the wall. Since 2008, Antonio Brown is the greatest receiver to ever be in the league. So yeah, man. I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers have a great season. I'm out. Peace.